this interruption of my the beginning of this live. It was a very important call uh, for work, so I'm so sorry I had to stop everything. I hope that you will be able to join me again and listen to the reading of chapter 4, because so far I was doing a quick recap of chapter 1, 2, and 3, and I was starting to do a recap of chapter 4. So of chapter 3, sorry, I was starting to do a quick recap of chapter 3, and so I was saying that so chapter 1 and 2, it's about Amma, the mother, the main character of the story. She is a Black lesbian, and she is a theater play director, and she has struggled a lot to become an actress, and she decided to build a company with her friend Dominic. And after that, Dominic left for America, and Amma stayed in London and built up her career. And she's become the director of the theatre, the National Theatre in London. So we learn that in chapter 1, and chapter 2 we learn about her daughter Yaz, who is studying at university, and she has 3 good friends. And one is Egyptian. She has an Egyptian background, and she is meant to be engaged to Kadim. And after that, we learn that she actually like Kadim, so it's a good thing. And she's got Yaz got as well another friend, Waris, and she is a Muslim and wears a hijab. And but actually she loves makeup, so she's doing she likes doing her makeup. And then there is another friend. Hi Kitty, I'm so sorry I had to cut this live. I had a very important call for work, so I'm so sorry that I had to interrupt the live. So I was just doing a quick recap of recapping chapter 2, and I was starting to talk about chapter 3. So let's hope not being interrupted again. So I was talking about Courtney's friend, Yaz's friend Courtney, who is a white girl, and she is asking a lot of questions about her friends. And they have an argument about privilege with Yaz, and they kind of agree to disagree. And we learn about that. And then chapter 3, I'm just gonna recap quickly. Chapter 3 is about Dominic. Dominic is Emma's friend. She moved to America because she fell in love with Nzinga. She is American, and they met in London at Victoria Station. And They fell in love, and they moved. I mean, Dominic followed Nzinga to America, where they lived in a what was the name, in a community called Spirit Moon, and they lived there in a cabin. Cabin is another word for wood house. So they loved, so they lived in this house, in this cabin. But the thing is, slowly, Nzinga starts changing her behavior and her ways of talking with she starts to change her personality and the way she behaves towards Dominic, and she starts being possessive, and she asked her to stay away from the other women in the camp. And she wants to rename her as well. So it starts with this, and then she asks her to stay in the house. She doesn't need to do anything because she takes care of her. But then she starts becoming quite violent with her, and she hits her at some point, and after that, Dominic starts feeling very isolated, and she then decides to talk to someone in the camp, and that person is going to help her getting away from Nzinga and from the community, and being and start finding her freedom again. So this is what we learn, and at the very end of the chapter, it's a nice happy ending for Dominic, because she experienced abuse when she was young by her mother's boyfriend. And we talk a little bit, the word abuse is quite often used in this chapter, because we're talking about hi, hello, guten Morgen, Freiheit. I've learned a little bit of German when I was young, and I was teaching German when I was living in London. So I was teaching French and German, so I know a little bit. So hello, welcome. The word abuse is quite often used in this chapter, because we're talking about violence, but also sexual abuse, and it's kind of quite sad for Dominic to be back into it's quite sad for her to be again, to find herself again in that situation, in that situation with Nzinga. So we are happy that in the end it's an happy ending for Nzinga, because for Dominic, sorry, because we learn, hello Rafael, because we learn that she finally she ends up finding the love of her life, and we learn that she she meets Laverne, she becomes her wife, and they have 2 or 3 children. 2 children, and they have 2 children. It's a nice happy ending, and we learn at the end that that Dominic is living in America for 30 years. Hello. She has been living in America for 30 years. So my question yesterday was, hello Titouan, was, did Dominic ever, hello with a H, hello avec un H. My question here is, did Dominic ever meet again Amma? Did they meet again? I like the fact they're having a conversation. Okay, nice. Okay. So that's the question. Does Dominic and Amma ever meet again? So we don't know. We'll see. So now it's chapter 4, Carole. We don't know who's Carole, but we'll see. Okay. Okay, let's start. Carole is walking through a train station on her way to work. She passes underneath the information board that informs passengers about arrival times and trains that are late due to lives or a body on the tracks. Some people think that it is very selfish to choose to die by throwing yourself in front of a train, but not Carole. Carole understands why someone might choose such a horrible way to die. Carole knows what it feels like to appear normal to the people around you, but inside, the only one jump away from total peace. These days, however, Carole feels very much alive and able to enjoy her life. These days, Carole is happy to act like everyone else in the city. Who is Carole? I don't know. I don't know who is Carole. We'll see. On va voir. Okay. She works, sorry, where was I? These days, Carole is happy to act like everyone else in the city. She dresses in smart suits, pulls her hair into a tight bun, and wears small, no-nonsense jewelry. She works at an investment bank and spends her days helping wealthy people make more money. So basically what we learned so far is that, is Carole is working in a bank. It is in the book, Titouan. We will see. Sorry for you. Okay, great. So Carole is working in a bank. Okay. And spends her day helping wealthy is very rich people to get more money, to get even more rich. Okay. At night, she reads books about investments in Africa and Asia and news stories that affect the world's money. For Carole, it is not about her work. Then it is not worth really reading. When she falls asleep, she dreams about bad things that happen to bad little girls who don't know how to behave. What the... Oh my God. What is the name of the book? Book with 2 O's. B-O-O-K. T'es pas amélioré. You need to do some improvements in English. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. It's this one. Bernardine Evaristo. She's the author, the writer. And the name of the book is Girl, Woman, Other. Okay. And this book is B2, B2. Okay. So it's intermediate level, intermédiaire. Okay. So usually it might be a little bit difficult. I don't know what level you are, but it's more like when you are in high school, maybe at the end of high school. Donc, si tu es en niveau terminal, ok? Miroir, miroir. Ok? Donc, ça, c'est quand tu as un niveau peut-être en terminal, ok? So, it's a little bit, maybe a bit difficult. Anyway, let's continue. Okay. When she falls asleep, she dreams about bad things that happen to bad little girls who don't know how to behave. Okay. Carole has an early morning meeting with a wealthy customer in Hong Kong. She hopes that when she enters the room, he will not look at her as if he expects her to offer him coffee, tea, and biscuits. Carole is used to other customers and any new people she works with looking past her to the person they are clearly expecting to meet. She has a way for dealing with it now. It is all about being in control. She will walk up to the customer, shake his hand firmly, show off her not too thick lips as she smiles innocently, and tell him her name confidently in a well-spoken voice. Sometimes, after she has achieved this control, the customer will become attracted to her. Often the customer will try to hide his attraction, but sometimes he will not. Like the rich Nigerian man a few years ago who invited her to lunch at a hotel and tried to get her to sleep with him in one of the rooms. She was angry, but she did not want to ruin their professional relationship. So she politely told him that she was engaged to Freddie Marchmont. So here it's an interesting scene. And we can understand a little bit how some people with power can abuse of their power and how she feels about that situation and the fact that she wants to keep it professional, but also but at the same time she's quite angry about this attitude. And this is where you see the blurred lines when there is sexual assault or when there are issues about assault, and where is the fine line. That's a nice expression, the fine lines. It's where is the line between the how to behave and consent, all about consent. Okay, let's continue. It makes her angry when people treat her like this, but it does not surprise her anymore. She has had to act like it is not an insult when the people she works with have complimented her for being well spoken. Then there was that one time when she went on a business trip to a country with a terrible record on human rights. At the border, she told them that she was visiting the country to meet people from their national bank, but they did not care. They still invaded her body to check that she had not tried to bring anything bad into their country. Their hands invaded her most private areas and brought back memories she had tried hard to forget. And here we see how easy people feel entitled. And that's an interesting expression as well. Very when people with power feel entitled to touch you, or in her case, really being intrusive, very forward to touch her and to search her. And the word that she said that is used here, invaded her body. So that's very interesting. When Carole was 13 and a half years old, she had gone to her first party without any adults. It was at her friend Letitia's home, whose mum had gone on a special training weekend for work and whose older sister, Jayla, had gone to stay at her boyfriend's house. Letitia had texted Carole and the rest of their friends to bring a bottle and some boys, but only those with good buddies, or you won't be allowed in. Okay, so here it's more spoken language, so it's more a way of speaking. Only those with good buddies, or you won't be allowed in. You gets. Okay, so I'm not really good at imitating this way of speaking, but yeah. Carole lied to her mother, Bunny, and told her she was going to have a sleepover and not that she would be going to a party filled with teenagers drinking and dancing all night. There, Carole drank alcohol for the first time in her life. She was drinking vodka and lime when Trey and older boy who was at university walked into the room with his friends. Carole liked the look of them. They were real men and much better than the boys at Carole's school, who were still pulling girls' hair in the playground and running away laughing. Carole started dancing in front of them, glad that Letitia had told her to dress up in tight shorts and high shoes and put makeup on. She moved her thighs like the girls in the music video and noticed that Trey was staring at her. He had never noticed her before when they passed each other on the street. No one had ever looked at her the way Trey was looking at her. Encouraged by the vodka she had been drinking, Carole started dancing in circles in the middle of the room. She danced until her head started to hurt and she almost fell to the floor, only to be rescued by Trey. I'll look after you. Oh, that's so sweet, he said as he held her up. Lady, you're so hot. You should be arrested. Okay. So hot, you're very pretty. He put his arms around her and pulled her close. Carol had not been hugged by anyone since she was 10 and began escaping her mother's too tight, too tight hugs. Trey's chest was hard, but when she looked up at him, his eyes were soft as he stared at her. Love. Was this love? Love. Was this love? Even though they had just met, and she still felt a bit sick from the alcohol and dancing. Oh my God, Carol thought. Was Trey going to be her future husband? Okay, she's starting to see her future with him. Come on, said Trey as he led her out of the room and down the hall. You need some fresh hair. You're so fine. I've got to protect you. Letitia was going to be so jealous. Once they got outside, Trey pulled her tighter, so it moved her closer to her. Under his arm and led her towards a park. Carol wondered about what was going to happen. Were they going to stop and kiss? It would be her first kiss. Not with tongues, of course, but because that was disgusting. But a soft, gentle kiss on the lips, like in the old black and white films Mum liked to watch. She tried to look up at Trey, but he held her so tightly she could not move her head. Trey took her over the little bridge in the park and through a gate that could not be locked. And then she heard other voices. She and Trey were not alone. She tried to look up again, but it was too strong. Carol realized that they were not walking together anymore. She was being marched. Then suddenly, she was flat on her back on the ground with something wrapped around her eyes, and her arms were held in place above her head. And her clothes, how had her clothes come off? And then her body was no longer her own. It belonged to them. It belonged to the hands that were touching her on, and in parts of her body that were so private she had not even felt them herself yet. It hurt too, and did not seem to end. Then they were gone, and so she was. This is a tough one. This is a tough passage here, the difficult passage. I like the last two sentences. Then they were gone, and so was she. I think that's close. I mean, this book is an adaptation of the original book, but I guess that they sensed here the essence of the passage, and it's very well used. I mean, very well. I don't know if it's exactly in this terms that it's written in the book, but it's actually nicely put here, and nicely adapted, I would say. And yeah, we realize that this boy, Trey, is actually not someone that she could trust. And he actually abused her with probably other boys. So it's kind of sad for Carol. Let me know what you think. But yeah, okay, let's continue. So then it's in a different time here. Carol never told anyone that she had been gang raped. So gang raped that night. Gang raped is basically the fact that a lot of boys mainly um, raped her, basically. Yeah, so multiple people touched her and raped her. So yeah. Not even Mama, who would be angry at her for lying, or Letitia. Yeah, that's an interesting passage here. And so never told anyone that she had been gang raped and that night. Not even Mama, who would be angry at her for lying, or Letitia and the rest of their friends, because everyone said it was Cheryl's fault for wearing revealing clothes when the same thing happened to her in the same park in year 8. Year 8 is the equivalent, it's children aged between 12, 13 years old, or maybe 14, but yes, 13, 14, sorry, year 8. Sorry, 12, 13, it's 12, 13 years old. So and we learned, yeah, actually that was a flashback, and she was 13 and a half years old, so when she's been raped. So her other friend, it happened as well to her, to Cheryl as well, another friend. So it's interesting to see here the shame that that Carol bears with her, that she's got on her shoulder, basically, and the fact that she instantly think that her mom is not gonna believe her, and that sense that no one is going to believe you. So you can imagine the trauma, and to live with that. So let's continue. Was it Carol's fault too? That the guilt here, the fact that, oh, was I wearing, it's that question. I don't know if you've heard that in the media, or when the police, those story when the police officer is saying, oh, what were you wearing? Assuming that because you're wearing a skirt, automatically that means that it's a validation for being raped. So you looked for it. Carol suspected that it was. She hurt herself in her bedroom, and she hurt herself in her bedroom. So probably she cut herself or something, and stopped going to school, because what was the point in learning when something like this happened to her? What was the point? Until one day, on the anniversary of it, it was like she had finally woken up from a bad dream. She had been at school, watching her friends as they sat at the back of the class, laughing and joking and taking anything anything seriously and not taking anything seriously. She saw their futures and hers and knew they were not heading towards anything good. Not me, she told herself. Not me, not me, not me. She was not going to be like the rest of them. They were going to be poor single mothers living in old, smelly flats, working horrible jobs just to try and earn a little bit of money. But not Carole. She was going to succeed. She decided that she was going to prove that the teachers who had given up on her were wrong, especially Mrs. Shirley King. Mrs. King, who once thought that Carole was one of the brightest kids we've ever had, but was also pure evil and would make students stay behind after school for getting to class just 5 minutes late. But who else could Carole ask now that she knew she wanted to do better in school? So she approached Mrs. King and asked her for advice about which subject she needed to study to get a good job and which universities she should apply to when the time came. Surprisingly, Miss King agreed to help her if Carole promised to never miss school again, or arrive too late, and to stop being friends with people like Letitia. Carole did as Mrs. King asked, and 4 years later, she was invited to study math at Oxford University. This is good revenge. This is a nice revenge for Carole. Carole is the first child in the history of this school to ever get accepted into such an excellent university. Mrs. King told them. Carole should have been proud, but instead she felt like Mrs. King had robbed her of her special moment. At Oxford, Carole did not fit in. She could count the number of brown-skinned people around her on one hand, and none of them were as dark as her. She was different from the other students in other ways, too. They were rich and lived in big houses. Many were loud and confident and ate at expensive restaurants, spending their holidays in Paris, Prague, or Vilnius. Where was that even? And living nice, happy lives. Carole, on the other hand, lived in a small flat with her single mother and had never eaten at a restaurant with waiters. She had never gone on a single holiday either. But she had been gang raped when she was 13 and 13.5 years old. Carole knew she was nothing like those loud, confident students at Oxford. At the end of her first term, Carole returned to her home in Peckham and told her mother that she did not want to return to university. Okay, so once again, she decides to stop going to school. I'm done, Mama. I'm done. Hey, what kind of nonsense is this? Bunny shouted. Listen to me, Carole. Listen to me, Carole Williams. Did me and Papa come to this country for a better life, only to see our daughter give up so easily? Stop thinking that everyone hates you. Do you ask them? Did you ask them? Did you say to them, excuse me, do you hate me? Go back to university and find the people who want to be your friends, even if they are all white people. There is something for everyone in this world. So Carol went back to university. So that was a big talk from her mom. So Carol went back to university and did her best to fit in. She made friends and even got herself a boyfriend. Marcus was a white Kenyan who liked to date black girls. Carol did not care, but she knew she could never tell her mother about him. Bummy had told Carol many times that she had to marry a Nigerian man. Carol watched Marcus and her new friends closely and copied how they spoke, what they ate, and where they shopped. They introduced her to food like sushi and guacamole, pronounced guacamole, and invited her to their large family homes to spend the weekend where they went for long walks just for fun. Carol tried to copy how they looked too. She stopped wearing a lot of makeup, took off her false nails, and even straightened her curly hair. Marcus told her that he liked her natural hair. But Carol knew that her curls would stop her from getting a good job. So we learn that Carol is actually a Black woman as well, and that also the prejudice that she is facing as a Black woman, where having curly hair. Carol is still friends with Marcus, but she is now engaged to Freddie, who is also white. Freddie, who she met at a party a couple years after she started working. Freddie comes from a rich family, the kind of family that got him a job straight out of university just by making one phone call. Freddie does not want to work hard for the rest of his life. He would rather stay at home and keep their house organized while Carol goes to work. Carol loves that about Freddie. She knows that she will go further, faster in her job with him at her side. Once Freddie told her that his parents wanted him to marry someone like them, someone whose family went back to William the Conqueror, whose family went back to William the Conqueror. So William, so here this idea here of William the Conqueror, it means that they expect him to date a girl who's got a family background, who have long history in the English history, let's say, and a family. So that's a little bit exaggerated, but that's this idea of coming from a long line of English British people, wealthy British people. You should have seen their face. You should have seen their faces when I told them that I was marrying you, said Freddie with a laugh. And that's the end of chapter 4. And tomorrow it will be about Bummy. Bummy, if my memory is good, it's Carol's mother. Bummy, to marry a Nigerian man. Yeah, Bummy is Carol's mother. So now we are in that part of we are learning in another branch of the of a family. Let's say we learned about Amma, her daughter, and her friend Dominic. Now we discover a new girl called Carol, and now we're learning about her the story of her mother. Well, we learned about Carol, and now we're learning about Bami's mother, and Carol's mother, Bami. So that's about it for today. I hope that you enjoyed the reading of this chapter. If you have any comments and any suggestions about the reading, let me know, and I will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock without hopefully no interruption. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye bye.